another experience round about the same time frame, 93, early 94. I was out early morning witnessing with pioneers at the train station, and this woman saw me. Somebody I'd known before was a witness, and she came up to me and she said, "What, you're a Jehovah's Witness? Boy, I could tell you some things about Jehovah's Witnesses. My sister used to be a Jehovah's Witness. And her husband. You don't know the half of it. I could tell you a few things," she said to me. So I wanted to know what these things were. Because I knew her, I made arrangement for her to come round and tell me all about it. So one evening she came round. There was a knock at the door at the time we'd arranged. And to my surprise, when I opened the door, it wasn't her. The brothers and sisters had been working my road, and a sister who used to study the Bible with me, she thought she'd knock and say hello. So she came in, and I explained to her that I'd met this woman in the town outside the train station, and what happened and everything. And she said to me, "I know her. I was good friends with her sister. She was married to brother so-and-so in the congregation." Anyway, she left, and no sooner had she left than another knock at the door, and it was the woman that I'd met in the town. She came in, and we were talking, and she related to me that her sister, who had been married to a ministerial servant, and the man was her husband was a ministerial servant at the time, and he had made her the victim of domestic violence. He used to beat up his wife. So the brother was currently in the congregation. I don't remember 100% if he was a ministerial servant, actually. He may have been. He may have just been recently appointed. But either way, his past was that he was violent towards his wife. She left, and then I was thinking, boy, what am I supposed to do with this information? I knew he wasn't a married man currently, so I figured that it was going back a bit. I thought maybe best just leave it. And then what happened, the next meeting, I went to the counter and got my magazines. Reading through the study article later, and lo and behold, there was a paragraph in there that mentioned a ministerial servant who used to beat up his wife. And I'd never seen anything like that in the magazines before, nor since actually. But I took that as a prompting to, report this to the elders. So I'd arranged to work out on a service with an elder, and took the opportunity to speak to him about it. He actually immediately concluded, as I had, that this was a long time ago and water under the bridge, and that was all he had to say about it. Whether or not he questioned the brother on this matter, or he didn't see anything at all, I couldn't really tell you, but I know that I mentioned it to somebody, as I felt the Spirit had directed me. Anyway, a little while later, off I go to Pioneer School. But shortly before I attended the Pioneer School, that was in February 94, February 94. One of the elders, I believe, had left. He got married or something, and another elder was moving house, so he was leaving, and it had been announced at the meeting that a ministerial servant was no longer serving as a ministerial servant, and the same brother that I'd been out on the ministry with Alfred got upset over. He'd told me he was changing congregation, he was leaving the congregation. the meeting attendance had started to plummet. It did. You could see that all the empty seats in the Kingdom Hall. And maybe there were other problems going on as well, and I say that because I came into the meeting one day and I just stepped into the hall through the doors and there was about 3 or 4 elders there and they looked worried. They really did look like they were in a panic. Anyway, I could tell by things I'd heard was going on and the look on these elders' faces that congregation was crashing. Yeah. When I looked back to my 6 months in the town centre congregation, I thought, oh my days, it's happening to us. The congregation's collapsing. Brothers are being shipped out, or the Holy Spirit's leaving us, and it's taking what it can with it. So anyway, being as I had a timely access to a circuit overseer and a district overseer at the Pioneer School, I decided, well, I'll speak to the circuit overseer. So I related my concerns to the circuit overseer, and I do believe that him and the DO, they acted on what I'd said to them. I mean, come on, at the end of the day, that's their job. You know, what are they there for if not to deal with a situation like that? So eventually things calmed in the congregation. So again, it was evidence to me that the elders had been spoken to. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I feel Holy Spirit has really been with those people who are known as Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's not that I'm saying that these people and the Watchtower organisation is God's organisation. There's a fine line when in your mind to think about it, but really it's not that difficult. The people within the Watchtower organisation under the name of Jehovah's Witnesses, human beings, souls, they are, I believe, God's people. But the organisation they're wrapped up in, the Watchtower that encapsulates them, they believe, is not God's organisation. It's totally man-made. There's no need for it. It's not necessary. But anyway, the reason I felt it's necessary to relate the accounts of Arthur and the account of the Kingdom Hall crashing, my own Kingdom Hall crashing, is because I feel there's no doubt about it that on a global scale, the organisation of Jehovah's Witnesses is in freefall. It's crashing. And for the same reasons and more that my own congregation had started to crash, Watchtower is it's in a very bad way. Arthur could have been helped out. You know, the ministerial servant lived literally 2 minutes walk away. He drove past where Arthur lived to get to the Kingdom Hall. It was just not a biggie for him to pick this man up and take him to and from meetings, but he couldn't do it. For whatever reason, he neglected Arthur. He neglected to help him out. He failed to fill the man's needs, his own Bible study. And also at the Kingdom Hall, nobody was sitting alongside the man. Both his study conductors, an elder and a ministerial servant, they neglected this man. They didn't fill his needs. They took no notice of him. And this is what's happened in the Watchtower organisation. The leaders of the organisation have a group of people amongst them and they're neglecting them. They're not walking alongside them. They're not sitting alongside them. This group are out in the cold and the dark and the rain without any support. They're struggling on their own. And I believe that for the lack of support that the organisation has given these ones, they're trudging along. But then out of the blue, when they're hit with, I don't know, a trauma, the death of a loved one, a breakup of a marriage, or the losses of a job, or you name it, they're hit with these trials and tribulations outside of the Kingdom Hall, then they can't bear up. These ones, maybe they've walked out, maybe they were thrown out, disfellowshipped, maybe they were shunned, given the cold shoulder in the organisation, and some of them have they've more than walked out. They've walked out and or they've been thrown out, and they've ended up committing suicide. They've broken under the psychological battering, like a man who beats up his wife. The leadership of the organisation has given them a psychological battering. And this group of people, they've been told they're not genuine, they're thankless, they're ungrateful, they're big-headed, they're thinking too much of themselves. These ones, they've been told they're mentally unstable. These ones have been told not to partake of the emblems at the memorial. And not only these ones have been told this, everybody around them has been told that. So the people around them are mocking them and ridiculing them, not giving them the support and encouragement. And really the leadership of the organisation are guilty of neglect of the anointed ones amongst them. They're guilty of bullying, psychological battering of these ones, which has led to them, some of them, having a mental breakdown, and some of them going so far as to commit suicide. And these ones, I believe that their mental breakdown is in a way a self-fulfilling prophecy. Many prophecies of the organisation have failed, but they've certainly fulfilled this one. They've said these ones are mad, and it's led some of them to have a mental breakdown. I believe that there's anointed in the organisation who've been there for many decades, and they've not had the strength to partake of the emblems. I know that for a fact. I've spoken to 2 or 3 of them myself. So, God willing, with the upcoming memorial, they'll find that strength. May the Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, may it be with all of these ones to move them, as it did Lawrence Stuart. So, what I'm trying to say with this video, and I've tried to illustrate with this video how the leadership of the organisation have blood on their hands. The organisation has the blood of the Stuart family and many others on their hands. Lauren is not the first anointed one I've heard of who has committed suicide. I've heard of a young man in his 20s in the 1970s, a memorial partaker, committed suicide. A man in his late 20s, early 30s in the 80s in my own congregation, years before I was there, I'd heard he committed suicide.